Good evening. I want to thank you for your prior responsiveness to comments that have been made to you in this process. And I want to encourage you to continue that responsiveness. And the first step you can take has been mentioned this evening, but I want to emphasize it. And it goes to an issue of basic human fairness. Some people in this room along the proposed pipeline were notified in May or June, and they received information at open houses that were held in July. Other people were notified less than 2 weeks ago, and the open houses were held less than 2 weeks ago. They're at a distinct disadvantage. Some of them have spoken about that tonight. But FERC's response seems to be that, well, they have until October 9th, and we continue to take comments. But in fact, you don't continue to take comments about the scoping after October 9th, according to your own literature and your notice of intent. This is really very unfair when you consider what you're going to do, and I believe it is also unconstitutional. You are proposing to take people's land. You're proposing to take their future away from them. You're proposing to take their very dreams from them. And according to the Fifth Amendment, in order to do that, two things have to happen. There has to be due process, and there has to be a public need. I don't think you have either in this case. You don't have due process because some people have had months of notice and other people have had less than 2 weeks of notice. You also don't have due process because you chose to have 3 hearings. The sites of those hearings were at two of the sites were at the extreme ends of a 120-mile pipeline. The third site is not in the middle of a 120-mile pipeline. It's within about a third of the southern end of it. And anybody who can look at a map can see that it's not in the middle. And the judge will see that very clearly, very quickly. You know from the comments that you have received that most of the people who are opposed to this pipeline live in Delaware County. You know that 43 miles of this pipeline go through Delaware County. And that the border of Delaware County and Otsego County, which is now affected directly by Alternative M, has no hearing. So you can hand us a due process claim, or you can rectify something you've done wrong. You can give more time to the people who were just notified, an equal amount of time as the other people got, and you can hold hearings where you have clearly avoided. So that's the first part of the Fifth Amendment, due process. The second part has to do with need. That part is more difficult to do in a few minutes, and I have addressed some of that in my comments before. But the basic need for this project has to do with Williams' bottom line and the interest of Cabot to frack in New York State.
Yes.
Now, Williams also has an interest in fracking in New York State because they do gathering lines. So, while FERC will try to say that it has nothing to do with fracking, this pipeline has everything to do with fracking. That's the only reason why it's coming through this area of New York State, which has both Marcellus Shale and Utica Shale, and which is not within a convenient distance to a gas transmission line when if and when they permit hydrofracking in New York State. Now, I'm sure you're aware that in New York State, there's a supplemental generic environmental impact statement wending its way through the state's environmental process. And that there's talk of a final this year, but who knows? And that EIS recommends a green completion. And that the EPA has issued regulations that require green completion starting in 2015. Now, a green completion means that in order to drill a gas well, you have to connect to a pipeline first. So this pipeline will enable hydrofracking because companies will drill close to the pipeline first in order to assess their holdings. You'll have to address those things, and you'll have to address the greenhouse gas emission results and the industrialization results that come from people either putting gas into the pipeline or taking gas out of the pipeline. You may not want to address all of those concerns, but you will have to address all of those concerns. You'll also have to address whether there is an actual public need for this project if you were to take the hydrofracking out of the equation. Because as other people have said, the destination of this gas is not Schoharie County. Yet when you asked Williams and Cabot to study the alternative pipeline routes, which was very responsive of FERC, and I was really pleased when you did that, their response was really a joke. Because what they did was started constructing $3 billion pipelines to end up in Schoharie County, New York, where they want to send their gas is to New York City or Boston. So they were going like hundreds of miles out of the way to get to Schoharie County. They would go from Pennsylvania east and then go up to Schoharie County when their destination is New York City. Why? Why? Yes, why? Is anybody looking at that? Did anybody ask them, listen, this doesn't make any sense? I mean, I looked at it and started laughing.
Right. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
So, what is the real purpose of this project? The real purpose of this project is to increase the profits of some companies. There is no need for gas in New York City or Boston right now. There's no consumer demand that is not being met. There is an oversupply of gas. And these companies need to move that gas because they're losing money. And the only way they're going to start making money is if they start exporting it so that they can raise the price of gas. Certifies this project. What they're doing is they're taking people's land, they're taking people's future, they're taking people's dreams in order to enrich private interests. And something that has never happened before is you would certify this for domestic use, and then the DOE would come in and approve an export facility, and then the gas line, which was approved for domestic use, public need, would go to another country. And there is a very big question whether that is constitutional.
Ha!
really